Welcome to A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm your host, Eric P. Bishop. This is a place where interesting people come to talk about their creative outlets. As for myself, I'm an author, podcast host, travel enthusiast, and lover of the outdoors. If you'd like to learn more about my published works or adventures, go to my website, ericpbishop.com. I hope you enjoy the show, and please go out and support today's guest. Thanks, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to a new episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. This week, I am pleased to have Amy Beckinsale with me. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, Eric. You okay?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for coming on. It took us a little while to line this up, but I'm glad we finally did.
Yes.
So we did have to deal with a little bit. We always had to figure out timing of how we're going to film this because I'm in the United States and you are in England. So
Yes.
you are my second international guest. I can't remember now.
Okay.
Um,
Well, on it.
I think it's only the second, yes. I've got a couple more on the list that I want to connect with. I got someone in Australia eventually. But that one's going to take a little bit more work because that one I'm going to have to schedule really well.
Even just trying to talk to my friend who lives in Brisbane is always a bit of a struggle.
Really.
All the clocks change. You're like, what time is it there? I'm like, it's this. I'm like, where are you? This time. You awake? No.
Too funny, too funny. And actually, I stand corrected because Gavin Stone I interviewed last year, but I keep forgetting Adam Hamdy, who was living in Great Britain, was in Shropshire, England. He's now in Mauritius, which is this nice little island in the Indian Ocean. So he kind of vacated England, I believe, during COVID, and he was like, this isn't for me."
I have a few friends from school, college, places who've done the same where they've visited somewhere and went, no, further. And they come over for a bit and they go, yeah, I'm going back again now. Yeah, sorry.
Now, have you lived there your whole life? Are you a
I have,
native?
yes.
You have.
Yes, yeah, born and bred Somerset, southwest of England.
Okay.
Which I think remember saying is about an hour and a half drive away from the Severn Bridge up to Cardiff,
Okay.
the Wales. So very much in the corner. Although I have had people say to me when I'm at grabbing food somewhere or getting a takeout, where are you from? I'm from here, I'm from England, from Somerset. No, where are you really from? I was like, because you don't look British. I'm like, well, one, I'm sorry. But two, yes, I am from England. Very strange.
I I think I'd have to follow that one was would my follow up to that might have to be what do you think British people should look like?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess though Britain really is a melting pot in some regards. I mean, the United States completely is. And if you go to, if you go somewhere like New York City, which I know is an extreme, I guess you could say, but I mean, there's literally you have Chinatown, you have Little Italy, you have
Yeah.
these ethnic areas that, have happened over the course of really, more than decades, centuries, I guess. But yeah, it's fascinating. So I think we had talked offline, and my first trip to England was in 1996. I was actually there on a school trip, or college history tour. So we started in Rome, worked our way through Europe, and ended up in London. And I loved many of the places we visited. And then I hit London, and I was just like, "This is my
Yeah.
jam. This is my jam." I don't have regrets in life because they don't do you any good, but I do have this nagging little, you should have applied for a job and moved to London, at least for a few years to kind of get it out of your system.
It's literally got everything London has. I mean, I've not been up there for a couple of years. I know I was going to try and come up and see you, but it was like
Yeah.
last minute sort of thing.
Right.
Well, we've got family up there. When we go up there, it just feels like second home.
Hmm.
Affording to live in London is another thing, but being able to go up there and
Yeah.
stay with your family who have got apartments up there and get the train up from where we are, we're very blessed.
Yeah.
But the price of living in London is very expensive.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those places where you visit. I really enjoy going there, but would I want that to be my permanent home? I think it'd be nice to have like a flat in London for the weekends and then a country estate. If we're dreaming, if we're writers
Yeah.
and we can dream up our life, an estate out in the country. Maybe the Royal. We're not going to talk about the Royals, but maybe the Royals can bequeath us some of their paltry estates that are out in the countryside.
Yeah. Or be in Airbnb out the Buckingham Palace or something. There's enough room.
There. Oh, yeah.
Could have
I've
an
been
Airbnb.
3 times, I guess. I haven't actually been in the palace. I think this last time I was going to try to actually go because I had my mom with me and she'd never been overseas. It was off season, so they didn't have regular tours, but they did have some special ones that you could do. They were totally booked up, and I think they were like 120 pounds per ticket. And I'm
Wow.
like, man, I've been through a lot of mansions in my life, just, touring them, not living in them
Yeah.
or anything. I don't think I need to see another, Victorian era desk or chair that a royal sat on or didn't sat on or Winston Churchill was here. It's like, yeah, we're good. I'll save my 120 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, I've never been into Buckingham Palace, but one day I would like to be able to go in there. Um, just because of the history, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
But no, nothing, no massive need to want to go and do it straight away.
Hmm.
It's been on our doorstep for thousands of years. It's just there. It's
It's
in,
yeah.
you know,
Well, it's funny being because and I've lived all around the United States, but I end up meeting a lot of different people in my travels, and the amount of people that live somewhere and you bring up and you go, oh yeah, well I went to Buckingham Palace. They're like, yeah, I've never been in Buckingham Palace or whatever region it is. It's funny how you live somewhere and there's a battlefield uh, from actually the War of Independence. There's from you guys, we have a battlefield down here about 15 minutes from my house, and I lived in Carolinas in college. Moved out west, came back, had a family, and bought a house and all that. And this one battlefield, I had so in 15 years of living in this area, I had driven by it 100 times. I had never gone to it. Now where I live, I'm very close to it, and and I'll probably go there this afternoon. It's just a great walking trail. It's very flat, but easy walk. No one's ever there. But it was funny that I had to live there that long before I'm like, oh yeah, Cowpens Battlefield. And I had no clue what happened there. So as I start walking, I would stop, read all the little signs throughout the battlefield, and I learned about history while I was at it. So
oh, that's cool. It's like where I live, literally next to Glastonbury, which has got the famous for the big Glastonbury Festival.
mhm.
We got the Glastonbury tour. It's very, very one of the big tourist sections to go to.
Yeah,
The Abbey and everything as well. Do we go up there regularly? No.
yeah,
Similar sort of thing. But when we do, we usually go up when it's snowing because the views are beautiful.
yeah.
If you Google just Glastonbury tour in the snow, it's just fabulous. Getting down it in the snow is hilarious, but as you can probably imagine. But yeah,
All
you live somewhere, you don't go to the places, and it's not until you maybe have someone come and visit you that doesn't live around the area, then you go because you want to show it all off. You go, oh, this has got this, got that, and then you go, oh wow, why have I not done this before?
right. Well, you said you're not too far from Cardiff, so I visited Cardiff in November of 23, 2, 22, 23, something like that. 22. 2 years ago and a
I
few
was
months.
there in November 22.
I was at the castle, actually the Christmas market in Cardiff.
Oh,
I met this.
what date was that?
Oh, geez, what date was I there? Well, I can tell
Yeah.
you. Hold on, hold on. Pause our audience as we look at our cell phones to look at pictures and see if we can track down if we were in the same spot of Earth together at the same time. I was there. I'm scrolling. I take a boatload of pictures.
Oh, so
Um, I
you
mean,
were 26th of November, were you?
yeah,
You were in Cardiff watching the band watching Shinedown at the same time.
I was all over I had a all access pass, so I was all over the arena. I
So
was,
we were in the same building at the same time.
yeah.
26th of November 22.
Yeah. Actually, I was at I went to a rugby match that afternoon. I was at the rugby match because I had so much time to kill. The band's rehearsing and they're doing
Oh
their
my
thing.
God.
Yeah,
We literally could have walked past each other in the street.
very possibly. Saw a couple fights going down the main drag after the match before the concert. Saw some bloody lads running around chasing each
That,
other. Yeah, it
that's
was
British rugby for you.
British rugby. It was a blast. So no, but that was probably. For the areas I've been to in the UK, I think Cardiff was my favorite. until Edinburgh this last trip. So
I
I
wanted to ask you about Edinburgh. I wanted
yeah,
to
so
ask.
we can get into that, but yeah, that trip to me, I really enjoyed it. I love being back in London for the third time. Dublin was really cool. I really enjoyed Dublin and Blarney Stone and all that stuff. But it was something about Edinburgh that just caught me. It was. I think it's because it's not. I mean, it's commercialized. Obviously, there's Nando's and different restaurants, and KFC. They have, Americanized restaurants and stuff, but it doesn't have like big skyscrapers. And it has a very, especially if you go in the old town, it
Yeah.
feels very much like you could have been walking that city, 700 years ago, and it wouldn't have looked dramatically different, except maybe some Harry Potter signs wouldn't have been there for, for that.
Feels almost magical,
Yeah.
the old city, I want to say, of Edinburgh, especially when you're walking up and down the Royal Mile,
Yes.
um, and walking up to the castle. I don't know if you visited the castle when you were there, but there's something, like you say, something magical about being in Edinburgh. And
Yeah.
it's like going home, again, like London going home, because I'm half Scottish, which is why I'm watching the Six Nations rugby right now with Ireland versus Scotland. Um, because yeah, I used to get the train up to night train up to Edinburgh, and then Edinburgh to Glenrothes, and then up to
Okay.
Dundee. So it's very much like a second home. I've not been there for a little while because obviously family have died. But yeah, I love Edinburgh. It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
So
Really.
watch, highly recommend visiting Edinburgh, visiting the old town, the old like streets and everything as well, and the architecture. And this is going to sound very morbid, but there's a really, really old cemetery. I'm not sure if you visited it.
Yes, I did.
And then Bobby Fryers, the dog. Did
Yep,
you see
I have
that one?
pictures of it. I was
Yeah.
there, whatever this was. I was there the day before Thanksgiving, 2 days before
Okay.
Thanksgiving this year. So
And
yeah,
yeah, it's going to sound really weird, but I love that graveyard because there's
yeah.
something really Victorian about it and very old fashioned, which is why I said when we were chatting, you're going to find yourself some book knowledge coming on or inspiration.
I most certainly will take. So I did already. The trip was about taking my mom overseas. She had never gone. She's 71. She'd been to Canada and I think the Bahamas, but never been across the pond. And so I originally had reached out to her about a year ago now. And I think she got excited because I said, "Hey, Thanksgiving this year," and she's like, "Oh," thinking I was going to come home because I don't have my kids for a week every other Thanksgiving, and I just don't. I don't like the idea of I could see them. I could, my ex would let me see him for a little bit or we exchanged some time. So it wasn't that I could, but I wouldn't have him for, the meal and the big stuff. And so to me, I don't want to be 30 minutes away from them knowing, hey, my kids are 30 minutes away and I'm just going with friends. And my family lives about 10, 12 hours away. So I'm kind of here alone unless I'm hanging out with friends or my kids. And so I reach out to my mom and, Thanksgiving and she gets excited. And you coming home? And I was like, no, let's go to Ireland. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll take you to Ireland. You never, it was on like her bucket list. I'm like, you're running, you don't have another 70 years, mom. I hope you have another 30, but you probably don't have another 70. So, got her all excited for it. And then as I was kind of planning the trip out, I'm like, if we're gonna go all the way over to Ireland, we have British. My grandfather was born in Leicester. Oh man, I should know exactly
Oh,
where my grandfather.
Leicester.
Yeah,
Leicester.
like early 1900s. He was born like actually it might have been 1900 or 1901. I have his birth certificate in my safe actually. Um, but I figured mom would want to, even if we didn't make it there, she'd still want to see London and just England. And so as I'm kind of figuring that out, and I'm like, well, darn, I haven't been to Scotland yet. So if we're going to be here, there's got to be trains that run up to Scotland, and we can just fly out of Scotland to Dublin. That can't be an expensive flight. So that's
An
what we
hour
ended.
flight.
What's that?
An hour flight.
Yeah, not very long. So we ended up basically flying into London, into Heathrow, spent several days there, went and saw like Les Mis, and I'll have a story about that for you because I know you're into theater and a performer. Um, and then took the train from King's Cross up to Edinburgh, and then we stayed there for only a day and a half. It was pretty short. That's why I want to go back there. And then yeah, Ryanair over to London, and then back to or Ryanair over to Dublin, and then back to London for our flight back home. It was just cheaper to get a round trip out of Heathrow than bounce from one to another.
Yeah.
Ryanair, Ryanair and Aer Lingus pretty darn cheap. So, but yeah, it was just. It was super, super, and she had a blast. So just showing her London and, changing the guard and Tower of London. Yeah, it was one of those magical trips that hard to believe it was almost 3 months ago now because it seems like it hasn't been that long, but I'm glad I had that experience with her.
Did you when you were in London, did you happen to go to the South Bank and see the I don't say library, but the underneath one of the I think it's Blackfriars Bridge on South Bank, they have like a bookstall, a book
Hmm.
stand, and they
Mm-mm.
have lots of books all out. Might you when you come back again, I will try and make up there next time when you come back.
Okay.
Um, this book section, they have loads of tables and loads of books that you can go and purchase and read and things. And it's just one of the most like famous book thingies. I'm gonna say thingy because I can't think of the right word right now on South Bank. But
Okay.
that's really good to visit.
I'll look it up for sure. Yeah, there was a couple. We tried to cram too much probably into 2 days, and there were places like I want to take her to Westminster Abbey. There are things I've done now. That was my third time doing some of them, but I'm like, I don't know. I hate to be here and be like, Mom, I don't want to go to Westminster Abbey again. And that was actually when I went 2 years ago to Cardiff with Shinedown and stuff. I went over to London by myself for like 2.5 days or whatever, and I was kind of just roaming around the city. I had already done a lot of that stuff in 1996, which was a long time ago at that point. But I was like, I've seen Big Ben, I've seen Westminster Abbey. And I was just roaming around and I found myself back in that area. And there was a line outside of Westminster Abbey and it was getting later. It was like, sun was coming down in England, which is not late in November, like
Nope.
4 o'clock. So
Yeah.
4:30. And so I asked the person in front of me, I was like, is this a line to get in the Abbey? They're like, yeah. I was like, oh, the tour? They're like, no, it's the first night of Advent church service.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
like, interesting. I was like, you need a ticket? They're like, no. And I'm like, well, I'm here. Let's see what a church service is at Westminster Abbey. Hands down. And I've spent my life growing up in church and went to a Christian college and all this stuff.
Mm.
The most sacred feeling church service in my life. It was a candlelight service, Westminster Abbey, the first night of Advent. It was just full choir was in there. And I just felt like, okay, God's in this room. I think he's everywhere anyways, but he's
Yeah, yeah,
really here right now, kind of saying kind of whispering in my ear, enjoy this moment and remember this moment because you only do this thing once. You only have
yeah.
this experience like this once. So, stuff like that really moves me. And then it ends up probably a lot of times finding its way in books because my characters, I'll be like, I was writing something last night, and I put one of my characters in Seattle and it was a drive I had done, 100 times over the years while I lived that the year I lived in Seattle was doing this one drive for work every day, but it was gorgeous because
Yeah.
you'd come down. I lived north of Seattle, and I'd come down into Shoreline from Shoreline into Seattle, and there would be Mount Rainier, and not a mountain that you just see the tip of it, like a mountain that you're seeing 14,000 feet from sea level
Wow.
up. Just like I'd want to stop and take a picture some mornings. It was so
Yeah.
beautiful. So last night I was writing, I was like, I haven't put that idea or what I saw in a book yet. So, I gave it to one of my characters and I'm like, okay, that memory I have kind of gets to live on in the course of what I'm writing. So,
Oh, that's nice. I like using your own personal experiences in books as well. And that's when you can really, when you're reading a book, that you can really feel
yep.
like what that character is going through.
Hmm.
I always find that if I can get lost in the book and I can see everything happening in my mind, then even from the first few pages, that's got me hooked.
Right.
Be able to see what's going on. Like I read a book by Katie Brent, crime thriller author, quite humorous as well. She just had a new book come out, and I picked up one of her books while I was having all my eye problems because I had eye surgery and stuff last
Yeah.
year. And I was picking up a book of what right when I can see out the left eye, I'll read this. And I tell you what, I probably finished it in about 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Her detailing was so precise about the streets of London where her characters were working. Yes, I can see it because I know London very well. But
Right.
if you can write a book and you can engage so well with that reader, you know
Hmm.
you've got them hooked. And they'll be a reader for life then as well.
They will be, yeah. Yeah, and there's something obviously I've had to, and I'm sure you had I've had to write scenes of places I've never visited. So I've used, Google Earth or, watched videos, YouTube videos, because I like to know what's there. What's the if I'm putting my characters in a cafe on the side of a boulevard, I want to see like what's the boulevard look like, not just say, she was sitting on on blah 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 boulevard at this time. No, give it details.
Yeah.
So if I can be there, if I can somehow get there in real life or incorporate those things in real life into a book, I think it's just if I can smell it, if I can smell it and taste it, then I can. explain visually what it was like pretty easily, but to have that real world feel, I think conveys to the readers very well.
I've got to admit, most of my books have only been set in London because I know London. There's
Hmm.
areas of London I hadn't actually been to. And in the
Hmm.
first book, I described the view from Hampstead Heath, Parliament Hill.
Okay.
And I'd never been there. So when I went up there with my husband, seeing my cousin and my friend came up as well. I was like, "Gosh, I need to go to Parliament Hill. You guys know what you need to do, but I have to go there
Right.
because I need to see it."
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like you were looking on Google, to be honest, but it was the climb up to Hampstead Heath. It was a tube journey from the underground going through the town to get to Parliament Hill.
Hmm.
The description of that one helped like enormously.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
do want to do some books where they are set in America. Here's my problem. Number one, do I write it in American English or British English?
Mm.
There's some areas I've never been to. So I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I might have to rethink it and relocate them again. So that's all in work in progress at the moment. That's all up here at the minute.
So
But
the
yeah,
book would the book be completely set in the United States or
I don't know. It might be half and half.
okay.
So, my friend Mandy Melanson, who originally indie published the first set of books. I own the rights again now. I
Hmm.
was chatting to her about it. She said, I said I'd love to have a story that isn't based just solely in the UK.
Yeah,
And I said said the same sort of things. Do I have British English or do I have American English?
right.
People are going to read it in American English and they go, yeah, but she's British. And one way we got around it is like, well, why don't you have the female lead being English? So
Okay.
you can write it in her perspective,
Yeah.
place it in the States, and have it between the two countries.
Yeah.
But that,
I had a thought as you were saying that, and you might smack me internationally through the Zoom if I say this, but what what if you wrote the scene set in the United States in American English and anything set in Britain in British English?
yeah.
Now that would be, I think that would be taxing because I don't think I could do that, but you're probably much smarter than I am, so you probably
Oh,
could.
I doubt it. I probably have to have two. I have to do like work on Google Docs and have the editing and language software in Google Docs and have the other one in the British one, having that like to go right. I need to change that. That's not right, and then it changed all the American ones and it
I
changed all
know.
the British ones, like putting a U in a favorite or taking it out. And
My, I do use a word software. I pay a professional editor who does a very good job, but before I get to it, I go through a few times with just software I buy. And I tell you
yeah,
what, it wants to change things sometimes, and I'm like, and I have the option to change it or not. So I'm always like, no, no, these characters are speaking, and when they're speaking,
oh,
they're not using proper English. They might be saying whatcha, WATCHA, what you
yeah.
mean. Well, I don't want to say, what do you mean? That's how a weird person talks in this
I
conversation.
find that as well. I got one like that as well, and I'm like saying something in a phrase that we just say, and I can't think of one at the minute. But the saying like so for example, I'm not sure if you guys say this, but in Somerset. If someone was to say, "Oh, do you know this place somewhere?" Oh yeah, where's that to?
Where's that too? I've
Where's
heard it before, but we don't normally say it. I have heard
it is very much the southwest country sort of saying. Oh, where's that to? Yeah, where is that?
it.
No, some reason we have to put a two on the end, and I don't know why. But my cousin and my family are saying, "Oh no, it was my then work colleague actually." He's like, "You'll be up in London with your posh cousins and stuff." So
Gosh.
in this posh function with your champagne, you go, oh yes, well, where's that to? Because he said, try and control your accent as much as you can, Ames, but that little Somerset twang is going to come out somewhere. Where's
Wouldn't it
that?
be funny if 10 years ago you were somehow in London for a royal function and you heard the Queen say it exactly
Oh my
like that? And
God.
you'd be like, you know what? Even the aristocrats use slang.
Yeah, that would be absolutely epic. I'd love that. If the Queen had come out going, oh yes, where's that to?
They would probably say, "Yes, Mom." They would this here, go here. They whatever she said, it was the
That would
gospel.
have made my day. That'd been brilliant. I'm sure Prince Philip probably came out with something like that once, I'd imagine.
That's too funny.
He was the cheeky. Oh, took my coffee. That was the he was the cheeky one. No, we're good. There's no wires in the coffee. We're
Yeah,
fine.
don't start any kind of electrical issues. So,
Oh, yeah. There we go. That's my husband's scarf. That's one of coffee tomorrow. He'll be happy.
when he asks why it smells like coffee, just say, I don't know.
I think you got an addiction, darling.
That's too funny. Yeah, so speaking of the accents and I think they call them colloquialisms normally, like what different things that are said in different areas. I live in, the South and I've lived out west. Grew up in the northeast part of the country, Connecticut. And so I've kind of heard a lot of them. And it's just, you end up, I don't pick up many of them. Like I've probably used y'all before at times, but I don't typically use it. But it does sometimes work its way. And you do find though, if you're with someone who's from that area, you can quickly kind of like get into their lingo and start speaking like they do, even if it's not your normal dialect. It picks up quickly. So,
Talking about picking up people's dialect, I got almost got himself into trouble multiple times. I remember I was in Cardiff and I was auditioning to get into the Welsh College of Music and Drama
oh wow.
about 2001 time.
Hmm.
My friend Dave and I went up, we both did the performing arts course
Hmm.
in college together. And we had to memorize two paragraphs and a song. And I think I can't remember the song. I think it was probably I can't recall the song, but I'd memorized the a dialogue from Bouncers and Shakers.
Okay.
I can't remember the author who did that one now, and Lady Macbeth's speech.
Hmm.
And we're sat in the waiting area of this very prestige drama school in the heart of Cardiff. And I'm there yapping, like, like nervous chatter, because this is a
Right.
massive audition. And Dave's like, Ames, shut up. I'm like, what? Shut up, you're going to get us kicked out. I'm doing a full Welsh accent without even realizing what I'm doing. And then it's like, I don't know. Why are you telling me to shut up, Dave? You are taking your, I almost swore then, sorry. Because you're full on in Welsh mode right now, and you have no idea what you're doing. I was like, oh, sorry, my bad. So I have a very bad habit, without even realizing what I'm doing, of picking up people's accents and copying them without
There's
realizing what I'm
there's nothing wrong with that, Amy. Nothing wrong
doing.
with that. So before we talk about books, because
Yeah.
the story of how you started your series, I think is pretty fascinating. And people that don't know your story, I want you to tell them where you started writing it. But did you get into drama and acting basically prior to writing? Is that something that you were doing when you were younger? And how did you get into that?
Not professionally.
Okay.
I started when I was a little girl, like all little girls do, they want to be princesses. My grandmother, she was a professional tap dancer
Okay.
and she had the voice of like Judy Garland. Like if you look on
Hmm.
my Instagram, you'll see the 30 Days of Music
Hmm.
and today's voice is an artist who's no longer with us. Naturally, I picked Judy Garland because she reminds me so much of my grandmother.
Hmm.
She was a professional tap dancer and she used to entertain the troops in the wars.
Okay.
So little Amy, grandmother, massive inspiration. I go into ballet and tap.
Nice.
I then leave ballet and everything to go and join the Girl Guides, the Brownies.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I see if you go forward a few years later, my big brother Philip, he was a paramedic in the Royal Air Force,
Okay.
and he used to be part of the drama group. So I remember I think it's in Brize Norton, and seeing my brother playing it was very much a very British comedy sort of Monty Python sketch.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing him playing a priest, and I was looking up at my big brother, who's 12 years older than me, and go, "Oh wow, I want to be like my brother."
Yeah.
He got the hook in me, and
Hmm.
then I did the occasional little school play, but then I did 3 years of drama at college.
Right.
Done the occasional little short clips, but nothing massive really. And I joined the local theatre groups. I tried university, but it wasn't for me. But I wanted to go just to make sure I wasn't missing out.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I was like, do I want to do this? I don't know, but I don't want to not go and then regret it.
Right.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't for my other friends as well. Actually, they pulled out because it was very very basic. It's what we'd already learned at college essentially. So I joined. I finished there. I joined some theatre groups. Did some shows. Fell in love with it, but then something else took over. And that brings us to the conversation that got me into writing.
Hmm. So I was going to say, so similar to you, I didn't pursue it the way you did. So I did a play in middle school. Yeah, it was middle school, and that kind of got me interested in it. And then I should have gotten involved in college. It wasn't until my junior year of college that I'm like, we literally, my college did Shakespearean plays, I think every semester. So two a year they would do. So finally, my senior year, I went and applied for one. And by that point, all these people are actually trained actors. I'm not trained actor, and maybe if I had been doing it for years, I could have got a part. So, but I tried out, and like, we need a soldier. So I was like soldier number three. So I got to be in the play, and to me, what then was interesting was the part on stage was fine. It was a non-speaking role, and I enjoyed it. And I think I would have liked a speaking role, but I liked all the things behind the scene, like yeah, that to me was enjoyable. And they had the college I went to, they had taken an old theater from New York City and brought it down to the Carolinas and rebuilt it and built an auditorium. So it was fully functional. They had the lifts, they had everything. And we would just like, we'd go up and do our parts for practice, and then we'd have an hour of not being back on stage. So it's just like, don't leave. Some people would do homework or whatever else, as we had tests and all the other stuff. I would just explore the underbelly of the theater and the
Uh,
lifts. And there was a costume room downstairs that was almost like a medieval torture chamber. It was just, you know, everything you can imagine, fake axes and chainmail and all this stuff. And for me, going through that stuff, it was like a kid in a candy factory.
yeah.
Um, I probably would have liked to pursue it past then, but then, you get out of college and you're like, okay, I have bills to pay now. What do I do as an adult? Then I went to this trip to Europe. I loved it. I wanted to travel more, and then you meet a girl and you get married and you have kids, and all of a sudden you realize like 10 years of my life have gone by and I haven't left the country or haven't done this and that, and
Oh
life
no,
takes.
the backstage area again. My brother is the brother is the one that got me into that as well. Because I
Mhm.
saw him being stage manager for a show as well, and it was quite funny. He had signs backstage going, "You talk, I kill," and then do not talk while the show's on.
Right.
I got hooked into the backstage section as well, and the lighting and the sound, and um, running the actual production as well, like doing all the cues for the lighting and the sound and thing. I fell in love with those bits. I think I enjoyed being in control of what was happening on stage,
Right.
kind of like being the boss, really. Let's
Yeah.
face it. Yeah. So yeah, I fell in love with that aspect of it as well. I forgot to mention when I was before I got into the writing, I did a course at the Open University. I did a short course in Shakespeare.
Okay.
After you reminded me, after you just mentioned that as well. So when I was doing an introduction to Shakespeare, we were studying the Taming of the Shrew in King Lear.
Hmm.
Very, God, it was tough.
Yeah.
Trying to get into that mental mindset of Shakespeare and the rhythm and of his dialogue and things.
Yep.
I went up to visit the Globe during this course.
Okay.
Fell in love with Shakespeare all over again,
Yeah.
in his history. And then I had the absolute honor of playing Hero in oh, that's embarrassing. That is really embarrassing. What was it called? Much Ado, no, yeah, Much Ado About Nothing.
Let's do it. Okay. I
Wow, that was like Shelley Shakespeare, but I can't remember the name of his titles. Um,
Amy,
yeah,
I get up from the couch sometimes and walk in the other room and don't know why I'm in the other room. So don't worry about it. It's
you have
okay.
to go back into the other room to remember what you came in.
Yes, you go back and
I
sit on the couch and then you're like, oh, geez, yeah, I just wanted water. And you get back
was
up
in
and
the
get
kitchen
water.
where I am now, and I went into the living room, and my husband's looking at me going, "What's with your face?" I'm like, "I'm back in a minute." And I
Why
came
am I
back up
here?
to went back into the
Why?
kitchen, and went, "Oh yeah,
Too funny. But yeah,
yeah,
but just like you were saying, the backstage stuff, and that's been the kind of the cool experience with the connection with Shinedown. And it's the only band I have any connections with that allow me to kind of see
very
behind the
cool one,
curtain.
very cool one."
But it's been amazing. And then the other thing though that's interesting about it, and I've talked about in the podcast before, is um it's an experience I wouldn't trade for the world. They're getting ready to go on tour again. I'm hoping I'll get the same opportunities. I'm sure I will. So I get to kind of see the behind the scenes again with these next couple of years when they're on tour. But I always tell people, It ain't glamorous though. That's the thing that people, I think you have these, and I had these, blinders on before I was like, oh man, it must be wild backstage and blah blah blah. It's a job. It's a business. It's very structured, very organized. You're kind of, at least for me, I was kind of given a few guide rules because at least with the tour a couple years ago, I had full access. Like the one thing I was basically said is don't get on stage when they're performing. That's kind of like a key
Yeah.
thing. I guess they looked at me and said, "This idiot's gonna go climb on stage and go give Eric a hug or something, or good Barry a fist bump or something." Like, hey, good job, dude. So, but yeah, a couple, kind of leave the guys alone in the dressing room. And I'll go in the dressing room sometimes at some of the shows, but I've kind of learned, I've been to enough shows now where it's kind of like, okay, before that show, leave them alone. Leave them alone. They're getting in the mindset. They're doing time stuff together. So about an hour and a half out from the show, they'll meet up. Barry will do um, what they call doo-doo. And he'll bring in some of the crew and stuff, and they have this little thing that Barry does, and that's one thing you don't want to miss if you get the opportunity, if you're invited in to do it. So I'll do
I'd
that
be
for every
invited.
show.
That'd be
That,
amazing. When my husband's a musician, I see them all getting ready for their shows. There's obviously nothing like a stadium tour, I get that, but
yeah.
um, I was with somebody, God, 20 odd years ago now, who was a sound engineer.
Hmm.
Uh, it didn't work out, but I will never actually say I will never anything say bad about them. It didn't work out between us, but he's a phenomenal sound engineer.
Hmm.
I'm very lucky to have learned that side of producing and
Yeah.
creating music. Husband's a musician. He builds and repairs guitars.
Okay.
Um, so obviously I know a lot about that side. I do the photography for the band Autumn Red, who they're with. It's like a very country rock band.
Hmm.
And they're just like they've got like 4 shows already this year. They're only a local band, but they're
Yeah.
they're owning it. They're absolutely owning it. Um,
That's awesome.
right. No, they're not as big as Shinedown. I adore Shinedown. Everyone knows I do. And it was Mandy again who got me back into them.
Hmm.
They're obviously very much American-based band.
Yeah.
Uh, and she wrote sorry, my eyes are watering. She wrote a series, and Unity was
Hmm.
the sole song
Hmm.
for a franchise.
Great
And she's
song.
like, oh, check this song out. I'm like, yeah, yeah, no problems. And she played the video. I'm like, oh my God, how did I forget about these guys?
Yeah.
And I got into it and I played it. And I was like, yeah, yeah. All the vinyl is like in the living room.
Right.
And Download Festival, I'm not sure if you know about that one, big rock and metal festival in the UK.
I've heard
There was,
about it. I've never, obviously never been there, but I've heard
it's
about it.
a, it is a community
Yeah.
of I've never been to a more friendly, open and welcoming festival in my life.
Hmm.
The first time I went was in '05.
Okay.
Hands up, say, seen Black Sabbath, very happy.
Uh,
Um,
I'll never get to see him, which is sad. Actually, they're doing one show, I think, this summer.
yeah, next July, this July coming, they're doing a massive show with some big names. The tickets are probably going to be very expensive.
Yeah.
We are waiting for those tickets to go on sale to hear the second lineup announcement for the download this year. I am very much hoping a certain band beginning of S is going to be on the headlining or lining the festival. Um, we will see. I don't know anyone. I'm just please. Um, but yeah. I went in '05. Husband had never been to a festival. We'd been to Glastonbury, but not a metal festival.
Not yeah.
And I remember seeing the lineup come out and seeing uh, Iron Maiden, Deftones, Shine Down. I went, tickets right now.
Yeah.
I took them out. The first time I saw them live, first time husband had been to Download Festival. We go every year. It's literally our main holiday.
And when's that held?
That is, hang on, sorry, my diary's behind me. June. 1 minute, it's getting my phone open. They changed, I think it's like the third week in June this time.
Okay.
Yeah, oh no, sorry, the 11th to the 15th of June.
11th. Okay. I'll have to try to make it one year. I don't think this year. This year probably it's not going to happen. Next year I'm planning a pretty. Next year, 26. I'll be turning 50 later in the year, and so I'm gonna go big or go home. So I think that the travel budget for that year is gonna all get thrown at a trip to New Zealand and Australia. That's my It's one of those places I always wanted to go, and it's like you might as well celebrate close to 50. I got a couple buddies. I've told the guys it's a guys only trip. Not that we're gonna do anything bad, but it's like I don't want any kind of like couples or how are we gonna do this? It's like dudes only. Just
Oh,
guys go. We're gonna go. I'm gonna go for 2 weeks. I'm gonna basically plan it out, and then I'll just send my friends the itinerary, and they can make suggestions. It's not my thing only, but I'm gonna go for this time period. If you guys want to come for whatever part you want. If I go by myself, I'll be a little irritated, but I'll find people to hang out with. I'll
I've
like,
heard I've heard Southern New Zealand is apparently stunning.
yes,
Yeah,
I
I've
want to
heard
do
it.
both islands, North Island, South Island. I want to do Great Barrier Reef. I want to do Sydney Opera House. I want to go in the outback for a couple days and see if I can get killed by some exotic creature that's always trying to kill people in Australia. And just
Yeah, that's the one problem I have with Australia. Although my friend Shelley, who lives in Brisbane, she's like, "Oh no, it's fine. You'll be fine." Oh, here we go again. Look, um, all the time. Sorry, 'cause it'll be fine. You'll be with us. We'll look after you. I'm like, yes, but you guys have massive spiders. I'm not okay with that.
I
I
mean,
see a house spider
England has
here.
massive spiders. I saw Harry
Oh,
Potter movies. Come on now, what in the world?
I hate that scene so much. I know it's all computer generated, but oh, I'm up there with Ron. I'm like, why can't it be butterflies? Why is it supposed to be spiders?
So I told my kids when I was going to be there because my kids obviously weren't on this last trip. Just my mom. I said, "Hey, they have a platform 9 3/4. They have a replica of it there at King's Cross." I was like, "I'll get a picture for you guys." I'll get, they're like, "Okay, whatever, Dad." They get annoyed by my pictures anyways. Although they constantly grab my phone and say, "Hey dad, we want to look at your pictures." And I was like, "Are these the same pictures you kind of give me grief for taking? Because I don't know why you want to see them." Um, so we got there about an hour for our train ride. We're supposed to leave, so plenty of time.
Yeah.
And there's a line to queue up to take your picture, I guess, holding the cart. And there's like 50 people in line, and I'm like, I'm not standing in line to get a stupid picture. I mean, whatever. Well, what I saw was people would go around the side of the line and there was direct line of sight of the cart with no one in the way. And people would just go like kind of start form a smaller line going that way. And I'm like, well, that's like 3 minutes wait. I'll go there. So I did that. Sent the picture of the kids. They're like, oh, you saw the platform. I was like, yeah, yeah, it's a reproduction, but whatever. You don't really go through the wall, apparently, which I was pissed. I was like, what in the world, Harry? You lied to me. So
I think people have tried running at the wall as well, which is quite funny.
I'm sure I probably saw a few of those people based on some of the people I saw walking through. So no,
Uh,
that is great. But I do want to end, well, before we cycle into books, which we need to talk about your books,
yeah.
music wise, I was thinking this morning, okay, Amy's coming on. What do I have British around here to, kind of celebrate? I guess I have heritage that's British, but what do I have clothing
Well,
wise? So,
a little cat behind you.
so that's what I went with.
Ah, yes.
So I saw Gavin back in August or September, I should remember. I got tickets because it was him. Candlebox was opening.
Yeah.
Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains was second act,
Oh, he's playing download this year.
and then
100.
Bush. And I got like again, I told you most of my friends don't like to go to concerts or could care less, or they're old and the noise bothers them. And I'm like, just take your hearing aids out. What in the world? Um, but so I got like 6 rows from the stage. So I got really in like last like cheap. It was a seat by itself, so they mark it down because who wants a solo seat? And I'm like, hey, I don't care. I've been single for 5 years, whatever. I'm a big boy. I can go to concerts by myself. Um, Phenomenal show, and that was the third time I've seen Candlebox, which I love. That's my one of my all-time faves is I guess overused, but I love that was my first concert was Candlebox, so I have an affinity for Candlebox. But it was the first time seeing Bush, and then fast forward to back in January. Had an idea when the Shinedown shows were coming just because of knowing the guys, but I didn't know the lineup, and so when I saw the lineup pop up, and I'm like, Bush is playing, so I was just like, I want to meet Gavin. I want to see him again. So we'll see later this year when they come. They come through. There's 3 shows within close driving distance of me, so I'll probably hit those 3 shows up in a row, and then I might fly to a couple shows as well.
Yeah.
We'll see if I can swing it. So
I'm hoping they're going to come to the UK again. I'm literally looking for the download lineup because I want to see if Bush is playing download this year. Uh,
Bush did come out with a list recently of their full tour because they came out with a full like all the way through August or September or something like that. So I
So who
don't.
we got download? We've got Green Day, Sleep Token, Corn, Weezer, Bullet for My Valentine, Jim Mute World, Dan Bronco, Spirit Box, Sex Pistols, Within Temptation, The Darkness, Steel Panther, McFly. Cannot figure out who that is. Cradle of Filth. That's the main headliners, the top names so far. But we are looking for the next lineup to be announced.
Hmm.
We're all getting very impatient. But Bush isn't there as yet, but they may go on there.
Are the tickets on sale already?
Yeah.
They do. Okay.
We literally bought our download tickets for this year the day we got back from the festival last year.
Okay. Gotcha.
We're sat in game having some lunch, like and a lot of coffee because we drive back from um down from Donington,
Hmm.
drive back throughout the night on the Sunday because the motorway is completely clear, you know.
Yeah.
And we get back, we shower, we go to bed, we get up, we go, right, so we get some food. And we're sat there. Do we buy the tickets for next year or do we wait to get the holiday off first? Get your phone out, let's buy them.
Let's buy them.
Yeah. And then hope
Awesome.
to God that the bosses will let us have the time off.
Right.
But they know,
100%.
our bosses know, like my husband's manager and my boss, they know that we go to download every year and we
Yeah.
make ourselves available for Glastonbury to work every year. Because Glastonbury is always the last weekend in June.
Okay.
Download is always the first or second weekend in June. And a lot of our work colleagues all go to Glastonbury.
Hmm.
Absolute beast trying to get tickets for that festival, by the way. If you ever
Hmm.
want to do Glastonbury Festival, just get ready by the phone and just keep doing
Yeah.
like press. So we always have that week off. We always make ourselves available to work the
Hmm.
Glastonbury weekend, so everyone else can go to that one. So
Right.
that's our little deal. That's our understanding.
Okay. As long as that deal keeps going. So.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So let's pivot to books, and I want you, because I've read it, but I've never heard you say it. So tell our audience where and how you started your first, novel, which was going to be a trilogy, and kind of where that inspiration came from.
So the story is, we used to work in retail. I'm gonna look at the camera now. Actually, here we go. Used to used to work in retail in a place called Clark's Village, which is where area where I live.
Hmm.
And me and my friends, my work colleagues, were working in a surf shop within the village. And this is going back 7 years or so now.
Okay.
And we were all talking. My friend Amy, she was there as well. And then actually there's three Amy's in this branch, which is hilarious. Young Amy, we'll call her young Abel and Chloe. They were going off to do
Yeah.
young Amy and Chloe. They're going off to do fashion at university. Kristen, she was going off to do her last year in teaching for dance.
Okay.
Michelle, my Australian buddy, she was working to actually just live in the UK.
Hmm.
She's back in Brisbane now. And me and Amy P. So we've got Amy P, young Amy, and me. Me, Amy P, and young Amy were all talking one day about, do we really want to be in retail for the rest of our lives?
Hmm.
Is this it? Is this it? Or like, it can't be it. It can't be it.
Yeah, this can't be it.
And we're going around the group. So I wrote, what can we see ourselves doing? And I said to young Amy, well, you're obviously going to be like a fashion designer one day because, you're really into your fashion, as is Chloe. And I said to Amy P, who I still see very regularly, actually, I can see you do something like nutritionist, because she's very healthy and she's into her yoga. So something sort of like nutritionist or health sort of like career in a way. Like she's
Yeah.
very much into, I'm not sure if you guys get Neil's Yard over there, which is like radio uh nice smelly salts and things like that.
I haven't heard of it, no.
Well, that's all about. But she does that now. She worked really hard. She has masseuse qualifications. She has all these
Okay.
qualifications for healthy eating. And yeah, she's doing it. She's actually last year, the year before, she actually gave up her job, and she's
Hmm.
doing it full time now. And she turned around to me this day, same day, and said, "Ames, I can see you writing a screenplay." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not sure. I've got the concentration for that. I'm
Right.
like a squirrel. I see one thing, I shoot off and do it, and I see something else." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think so." And that same evening, I was doing the late shift till late, working till 8 on my own. And I was leaning on the sales desk, going, "Oh, this is just boring." Literally no one in the shop. And I got my phone out and I was like, I wonder if Ames, all right, let's give this a shot, what Amy P said. So I started typing on my phone.
Hmm.
I continued typing. I was like, hang on a minute, something's happening. And I came up with like the first few paragraphs
Hmm.
of the opening book. First draft. It was horrific.
Right.
And I finished
Always
off
is.
finished off the rest of my shifts, and then I had like this little niggle started, and I was in one day, a couple of days later, I had my iPad out. I didn't have the posh fancy laptops back then. Had the iPad out, and I started writing on that as well. And
Hmm.
something happened,
Hmm.
and I started chatting to Amy P, young Amy, Chloe, Kristen, Shelley, Lewis, and another chap we worked with. I was like, something's happening. All of us have started developing these characters.
Hmm.
And then we're like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Oh, yeah, yeah, that'd be really cool. And they're all putting their input into it.
Hmm.
Like, give me, like some ideas and some feedback and things. And every time I'd write something, I was like, hey, okay, read that. Tell me what you think. Tell me if it's crap. Okay, cool. Any feedback? Yeah, fabulous. So we
Wow.
all of our time in this retail shop, we
Hmm.
started writing the first half of One Night Forever.
Yeah.
And then we're like, right, I need a laptop now. I can't keep writing this on my phone, which is
Right.
still on my phone
And were
right
you
now.
putting this in like notes in your like an iPhone notes or something?
Yeah.
No.
I'll show you. So I've actually kept them all on here. So
Yeah.
so they're all on there still from way back when.
I,
Still there. I refuse to take them off.
I have 115 notes on mine. So, and
Wow.
some of those notes are like 5,000 words on one note. But yeah, no, I'm boom, fist bump across the Atlantic. I'm with you.
Yeah, still there. I thought, and I could always put them in like on my hard drive to save it, but I kind of want to keep them on my phone because that's where it started.
Yeah.
It was the beginning, and then we
Well,
started.
if I'm sure you've probably done it, but I mean, it goes to the cloud, and also you can copy like a note, and then you can just dump it into an email, and then you can dump that in Word. So there's ways to move that around because I've done that where I'm like, there's so much on this note. What am I going to do with it? I'm like, email it to yourself. Like, oh yeah, okay. Because I'm not retyping 1,000 words that I just created on my phone. Because I do a lot of voice to text on mine, which is bad in a way because my phone is got a mental disability. It doesn't really understand what I'm saying half the time. And so I have to go back and like, I didn't, that's not the word I wanted. Why did it say duck? I shouldn't start with a D. It's an F. What in the world? But it's stuff like that will happen, of course. But
Yeah. No, no. As far as it's quite cool, we do the same sort of thing. Have you ever tried like actually dictating the word? So to write the story, you actually like speak into the mic and it translates.
like on your laptop, you mean, or
Yeah.
like, no, I've not. And it might not be a bad idea. I've had people suggest it, but yeah, no, I think it helps me the way I write. I think it helps me to type it out because I don't type super quick. I had an attractive girl next to me in typing class in high school, so I learned to type like with these 6 fingers because I kept staring at her, being like, I bet you I got a chance here, but I didn't. Um,
Oh,
so I'm not a great typer, but I think that allows me time to kind of edit my thoughts because if I just were to speak it, I think I'd have a lot more words because I don't know how to shut up plenty of times, as many people would tell you. Um, and it lets me kind of almost do an initial edit as I'm typing and be like, no, that's not what. So I think it's safer for me not to just verbally go blah.
I think sometimes I'll do like a little voice to note if I can't wake up in the middle of the night and go, "Ooh, yeah," and I'll sort of voice note it and then listen to it the next one and go, "Oh, no."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the
I
same
do
sort
that a
of.
lot on my phone, just in the notes section. I do a lot of its voice, and again, it changes some of the words, and I get pissed after, and I'm like, "That's not what I had said," or I don't remember saying that, but yeah,
A lot of it for me is kept up here, so I have lots of different ideas for the next series that I'm going to do,
yeah,
and I can hear them. They talk about you as a writer. I think we all have it. They're all talking to me like, "I want to do this. No, I want to make them like that way now. No, let's do that." I'm like, oh, "Shut
yep,
up," So, but it's all up in here.
yep,
I'm the same
same,
when it comes
exact
to
same.
writing. I was considering the voice to note or voice to word sort of thing,
Mhm.
but I do like to edit as I go as well and format as I go as well.
Yeah, because I don't spend a lot of time with it because I just want to get the story out of my head, but I do think it helps just so that when I finish that first draft, I'm not doing a complete rewrite, of like, oh my goodness. So it does. At one point, there was a time where I would kind of read the night before's chapter before I started the next chapter. But I've kind of moved away from that. I I've had I've been interviewed a lot of times over, with the course of my books, and people always kind of like, "What's your process?" And well, this is my process today. But when I wrote my first novel, I was married at the time. My kids were little. This was 2014. Um, Alls I had was like 10 o'clock at night till I went to sleep. That's all my writing times, and I didn't do it for basically a Sabbath necessarily, but I always took one night off, and it typically would be Saturday or Sunday. I would take a night off to just like not be in my own head of writing. But 6 nights a week I wrote, and I mean, there was one night I think I wrote like 6,500 words, but I was up to like 3 or 4 in the morning. I didn't sleep hardly
That's
at
an
all. I
entire
didn't.
novel.
Well, small. Well, yeah, a lot. There was a lot there, but at that point, that was my first full length novel I intentionally wrote, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. I wasn't even good with boundaries of saying, "Hey, dude," because I got physically ill, like not feeling good after writing that book because I wrote it in like 3 months of doing 10 o'clock at night until whatever time in the morning. I think I started at like 2014. It was like June 23rd, I want to say, June 20 something. And I finished that novel September 19th in Yosemite National Park out in California. So between June and September, I wrote $127,000, 127,000 word novel.
Wow.
And that was all at night. It wasn't anything during the day. I didn't sacrifice time with kids, but I sacrificed my health basically. So when I got to the point of, and that book didn't get published, when I got to the point of writing book two, I had kind of felt the physical demands, what that did to me. And I said, dude, you can't do it this way. So I still was married at the time and I only really had nights to write. So I just did a hard cutoff. It took longer to write, but I said, okay, you can start at 10 when everyone's asleep, and then you go till 12. And at 12, it was a firm cutoff. I'd have a timer set. It's like, okay, go watch Seinfeld or go watch an episode of something to kind of decompress a little bit and then go to bed. It'll be there in the next day, God willing. As long as you're alive, you can keep writing it the next day. And it went a lot smoother. And physically, I didn't have those repercussions. Then now, 10 years into writing, divorced, custody sometimes, no custody. Now I just kind of like, I'm talking with you today. I'll do some writing this afternoon. I have a short story for a comic book that I finished last night. I have to edit that today. Super Bowl's tonight. So I pop in where okay, you got an hour, do this. And I stay mentally focused of this is what you got to do in an hour.
Yeah.
Stop looking at your phone, do your freaking job. And the inner, I won't use Joe Rogan's term for his inner blank, but that inner thing inside me, I just tell it to look, be a big boy and do your job. Get your work done because you got stuff to do. So it's
Hopefully,
much more focused and much more I hope it's better. The last book I had out back in a couple months ago, the readers said it was my best work yet. So I think I'm getting better at it and I feel more confident. I always think whatever the next book is the best book. So right now I'm finishing up Supreme Justice, third book in the Body Man series. The cover actually is the bomb. I have sent the cover out to a few people and they're like, dude. And I'm like, I know. My
yeah.
cover guy got it, man. I love my other covers, but they're not as good as this one. This one is almost flawless in my mind. It's exactly what I want. I gave very detailed description of what I wanted, and he did a better job than what I could have envisioned.
Oh,
So,
that's good.
but yeah,
That
it's
is,
always the next thing. The next thing's
yeah.
always the
I
thing
feel
that's
like the next lot
important.
is, I feel like the next series that I'm going to do is probably going to, I've learned since the first book, I've definitely learned my way of writing. The saga is the One Night Saga is in third person.
Okay.
Next ones are going to be in the first person.
Wow, that's a
And so
change.
I'm going to change it a little bit because I
Yeah.
feel like if I do it in first, I can really put my personality and
Yes.
my click into it,
Right.
But when you say looking at your phone, I am so guilty of just sit there and just doom scrolling.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. I mean, my husband's the same. When my husband's got guitars in that he needs to fix for clients, but we
Yep.
sit on the sofa and after we finish work and go, oh, we both work like
Are you
40 hours.
texting each other when you're on the sofa? Hey, babe, what are you
Sometimes
doing?
they get off your ass. You got so and so's guitar to fix. They're going to be in a few hours. Yeah, I get. Yeah. Um, but we're all guilty, and like I say, especially when you've got a 40-hour week job as
Yeah.
well, and then you've got to try and find this time to dedicate to put towards your craft.
Right.
Like you'll come home from doing a 9 till 6. Sometimes not get home until what time is it now? You should be home in a minute because it's a 5 o'clock finish tonight.
Hmm.
Um, but he'll come home, he'll sit on the sofa, and he goes, "I know I need to do this guitar for repair. I know they're gonna be asking for it, but I'm knackered."
Yeah.
You know? And I've got to admit, I've since the third book of the saga came out, the One Night Together Forever came out last year. I tried to give myself a time barrier, like you said, to get the first of the other series out by the
Mhm.
by the 5th of May or something.
Okay.
And I was going through some mental health issues. I'm very open about the fact that I struggle very, very badly with
Sure.
mental health. My citalopram, I originally came off citalopram to try and fix myself on my own. I thought I can do this, and then
Mhm.
all the world went to shit.
Mhm.
Uh, we had family members die left, right, and center, and I had a massive nervous breakdown. I was
Wow.
signed for work for 2 months, like year before last. So I went back on the medication, and then about a week ago, I had to phone the doctor and go, I am not coping.
Hmm.
And they go, we can increase your medication. So they've increased it. And I'm doing better now. I have no shame in saying I am on medication for my mental health.
Hmm.
If it helps, it helps.
Yeah.
Then I had this niggling in my mind going, you need to get this book done. I'm like, I know, but I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot do it.
Right.
Physically, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I spoke to Mandy. I know I keep mentioning her, but she is my lifesaver. I love it. I spoke to her about Mandy, I'm struggling. She goes,
Mhm.
get onto KDP, tell them you need to pull these pre-orders, tell them why. And they took the restriction off to be able to put up to pre-order again. They're really understanding. They're very, very understanding.
Yeah.
You cannot keep pushing yourself to the point you're going to break.
Right.
So I'll admit, December, January, bit into November, February, I've not written anything. I've not
Yeah.
written a thing because
And
I
Amy,
want,
that's okay. There's
yeah,
nothing, there's no shame in that. There's no, I mean, actually, if anything, that is something that should be applauded because you realize you're in a spot where this
yeah.
isn't a good time to write and you've taken a step back. So that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. I think it was once the third book came out, that's the saga, that was done. It was like done, put to bed, it's out there. It can get 5 stars, 1 stars, I don't care. It's out there. We
Mhm.
don't look at our reviews. I keep reminding myself, do not look at your own reviews because your books are not for everybody and everyone has their own opinion. If they want to say shit about it, let them.
Right.
Um, so I think after the third book came out, I was up here and I went, "Pfft,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
It's all done. I spent 7 years of my life dedicated to those characters.
Right.
They don't talk to me anymore, which is very strange.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think I had a massive come down, and
Yeah.
that's natural. So I said, I'm not writing anything because I want to get better and I want to fall in love with writing again
Right.
and not have the deadline.
Yep.
I want to fall in love with it again.
Yep.
And that's what I'm doing at the moment. So any authors or anything who watch this, I just want to let you know that it's okay not to do it. If you don't
Right.
want to write, you're not in the mood for it, don't do it. Don't force something that doesn't come naturally.
Right.
So if the story's not there, don't push it.
Especially
Do
if you're
not.
not under contract. If you're with a big publisher and they have, really firm deadlines. But even then, I think what an author needs to be able to do is even maybe give back money, which not is an easy thing to do, but like, hey, I can't force myself because I didn't go through a similar sense in that regard with the mental health issues, but and I've been open about it. Went through a divorce in 2000. It's good that I can't remember actually. 2019 we separated. I think the divorce finalized early 21, March of 21 or something. So, it was like a 15-month time period where it sounds dramatic, but my life was ending. I had promised to be with this person the rest of my life. I had kids with this person, and they tell me to leave, and they leave and take the kids, and lawyers get involved, and just, your life is in total shit, total shambles. Um, and I was still a writer at that point, and I would kind of try to force myself. There was a period of time where I would kind of like, no, you need to write something. And I wrote the most horrific things, which I was probably projecting what I wanted to do deep down in my recesses of my soul, which were horrible. And I couldn't keep any of it. I mean, I didn't need, like, there's no file anywhere from what I did. It was wrote it, read it, delete.
Yeah.
Wrote it, read it, delete. And I did that for about a better part of a year. And it wasn't for me mentally, it wasn't until the day, I think it was December of 20, I don't remember when, before Christmas, we had court ordered mediation. We had to go to lawyers in a attorney's office and hammer out an agreement, or it went to a court battle, which was going to be a lot of money. Um, we in 3 hours figured out a reasonable deal, and I walked out of that appointment that day. I didn't have the kids that night. And I went home and I think I wrote 5,000 words of a new book because I talked about it recently on the podcast. I literally felt this burden lift off me. It wasn't that my life was all of a sudden perfect. I was still in the middle of going through a divorce. I was still
Going
lonely.
through COVID at the same time as well, wasn't it, I suppose?
COVID
20.
was a COVID was a joke to me. Not I don't mean that in a way of like disparaging what happened to people with COVID, but COVID was a joke because that was the easiest part of my life at that point. So
Yeah,
COVID was nothing to me. It was like, okay, this is a nuisance in that regard. Because yeah, that was the easy section of
yeah,
the traumas going on in life right then. But yeah, COVID was going on, so there was all these weird restrictions and I was here in the South, so they did actually take it a little bit more of a measured approach. I was in South Carolina at the time, and the governor there, they were strict for about a month, and then he said, "Hey, you know what? You have personal freedom. Make good choices. We're not t telling you what to do." So it was a kind of a different experience for a lot of COVID being in the Carolinas versus in New York City or London or China, places where you have a phone. I was in New Orleans during one of the outbreaks and I was not vaccinated. I don't have any problem with people being vaccinated. I just haven't had anything since like 2002,
yeah.
besides maybe a tetanus shot in 10 years ago, which I need to probably get another one soon, but I haven't been to the doctor in a while. But I was in New Orleans and they kind of locked everything down again while I was there, and you had to have proof of vaccination to go in a restaurant. And I'm like, the hell am I going to do to eat? And they're like, oh, you could do takeout, and the hotel would serve you food because you were staying at a hotel, but you couldn't
Yeah.
go on the riverboat cruises. You couldn't. But what was weird was you could go in a store next to a restaurant, put a mask on, and go shopping, but you couldn't walk into the restaurant next door, sit down, and eat. And I was just like, I think I have a logical problem with this
Yeah.
with these rules. So, but yeah, no, that was easy. So, but where I was going with that was just the burden that was off, and then I started writing. And actually,
Yeah.
what I started writing that night eventually became Supreme Justice, the novel I'm finishing up and coming out this summer. But yeah, that struggle when you're going through something, you have to take care of yourself. And
Yeah.
if that means giving up your babies in the sense of writing, not your actual children, but if that means giving up your writing for a period of time, that's what you need to do. And then I think that probably transitioned to a season of you get better. And then I think that makes your writing flourish, that you're in a good spot mentally. And then all those weird voices that all of us writers have that make us probably crazy, they
Yeah.
they can take free reign again and start talking
Yeah.
to us and we can just dictate what they're saying. So
And they take over. And the writing, it's like blah 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 blah. And you're like, hey, oh, wait a minute, that isn't what's meant to have happened. And then all of a sudden the characters are like channeling through you and making up their own bloody story. I don't know if you have it as well.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
and I love it, and I hope it never leaves me. So I've said that to people over the years. I plan on doing this until whenever that last breath comes. It might not be very good at the end. I might be senile or have dementia, and I'm probably just retelling a Tom Clancy story I remember from 70 years before. But okay, just don't try to let me publish it. Just tell dad, tell granddad. Oh yeah, we put it on KDP for you. And I won't know.
Yeah.
But no, that's so awesome. So yeah, when you're ready to jump back into it, I think you will. And now, so the new stuff that you want to do another trilogy? Is that the thought process,
I
or
think there's gonna be four books in this one for
okay,
each main character.
okay,
I think it's gonna be four. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to do this one because it's like I've been told that my writing can be quite it's very relatable.
hmm
Because when I've always written letters, I'm going to use this as an example. When I'm always writing my thank you letters to my aunties and uncles who have sadly passed away now, saying thank you for my Christmas present, blah 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 blah. I've always written to them as if I'm talking to them,
hmm
and they always feel like, oh, it feels like I could actually hear Amy
yeah,
saying
very
this.
very conversational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's how people say I can hear you telling me the story.
Mm.
And my husband turned around to me and said, the one night saga, it's like a feel good romance. Like feel good, sort of like, oh, that's nice, sort of. Oh, it got a bit of sauciness in there as well,
He,
but
he's just buttering you up. He wanted something.
he probably is. He probably wants another guitarist with another Paulie Smith thing. He's already no, don't no laugh. He's got nine PRSs in the living room behind me, and my husband he's not home yet. We're okay.
Okay, good.
Um,
We can talk about him. He won't see this interview.
so he's got nine. And he's got OCD, as most musicians and people who are techs and fixing
Right.
guitars and places usually are. No, it's just the parrot. Um, and brings this beautiful purple PRS home. That's how I was right. So you've got nine PRSs now. He has more guitars, but only nine PRSs.
Right.
I'm like, right, look, just because you've got nine, I know you've got OCD, does not mean you need to rack it up to 10, okay? Don't need 10 PRSs. Because, yeah, but it's a nice round number, isn't it? I'm like, oh, you bastard.
Uh, well, at least he's not collecting $500,000 sports cars or anything, too exotic. So
That's true. Yeah, I mean these guitars are, I'm sure if you know Paul Reed Smith, they're quite pricey now.
yeah, no.
They
My,
are worth. He has
my,
said, "If I die first, you got a good future."
That's hilarious. My son is a musician, so he's 18. Very big into bluegrass last year. Really kind of focusing on that, and he just bought himself. I guess it was back in September. He bought himself a Martin D18, which is not crazy expensive, but it's not a cheap guitar. He had a Yamaha for years, which was a $300 guitar, US dollars, and he did a big step up, and he was like, Dad, I'll have this guitar the rest of my life. There's guys that are playing their Martins 50 years later and they're still, it's something that they can do. So, but he's got some cool, he's got Stratocaster. Man, he's got a bunch. Now I can't even remember. He's got a bunch of electric guitars. My aunt had bequeathed him some guitar, still alive, but she stopped playing and she just wanted my son to be able, since he was a musician, it's like here's a high end. I mean, he would love to hear it. I love the electric ones, but he doesn't play much for me anymore in the last year because everything's down that bluegrass track. Which again, as a dad, as someone who's creates himself, I'm 100% supportive of it. It's like, dude, you're 18 years old, follow your dreams. You don't know where they're going to lead. Don't make smart decisions. You can sleep on my couch for a while. At some point, I'll probably kick your butt out and say, get a job and, start, supplement. You're going to have to, earn your musical lifestyle maybe. But for now, I don't want to force him upon. It's one of those hard things of I want him, and he's very responsible. I want to make sure there's responsibility continued to be taught, but also I want him to not just fall into be a little cog in the big machine. I mean, I was for years. I did kind of the right thing. I went to college, 4-year degree. Got a corporate job. I've been literally in the same company for almost 21 years now, which is extremely rare nowadays. Fortunately, it now allows me a lifestyle of I can kind of have some freedom on doing things because with income and tenure and all that stuff. And my boss knows it. I've been open with it. If I could hit it, in one of the books, get some big enough contract, or I start getting enough from us, I get good sales now. But if I started rolling in what I need, I'm done. I'm done. I probably would do something volunteer work or something because I don't believe in just. I don't think I could sit around and write full time. I think I would go crazy. But uh, um, but I'd like not to have to have an income to support my writing. I'd like, the writing supported my life. And that could happen. I just like I tell my son, that doesn't happen to very many people. It doesn't happen easily. And the one way it never happens is if you give up. So I've harped on that for years with the podcast and with interviews I've been on and my writing, and I'm sure people are like, dude, shut the hell up about it. But if
Yeah,
you got a story in you, tell it. If the
yeah,
story doesn't sell, maybe it doesn't sell because it's not a good story. But guess what? Go write another one. Can you
yeah.
figure
That's
out what
it.
you did wrong, or can you get some critique group to say, "Hey, dude, your protagonist was a jerk," or "Hey, your settings are really weak," or "Your dialogue is just all over the place." It's those characters in your head, you're giving them too much free reign. I mean, whatever the story is, it's like, okay, fix it and write a better story. And if that one doesn't sell, guess what? Turn off Netflix and go write a third story or fourth story or fifth story. We have so much more within us than we acknowledge, but I think it's easy to fall into comfort and just like, hey, I'll just do it the easy way. And it's like, the only successful people you're going to meet in life, unless they're trust fund babies or, unless they've came into the royals and, they had a spot of tea with the queen, they were born into wealth. No, most people that have earned any comfort in life had to bust their ass to get to that comfort. And they've worked really hard and they've sacrificed something, maybe too much sometimes, but they've had to work for it. So we have to too.
Yeah, it's very true. Very, very true. I applaud that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're
I'm good at
welcome.
motivationally speaking to myself most of the time, so I don't get done with you, go sit on the couch and be like, what's the NFL pregame for the Super Bowl? What are they saying? Like, no, 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 I'll watch it late tonight. I'll catch the Chiefs probably win their third Super Bowl because Taylor Swift will get on a lot of videos if Travis proposes at the end of the game or something crazy, then
Oh
NFL will
God, this
make
will
more
be
money.
all over the internet. That would be, wouldn't
Oh,
it?
it's the script's already written. I actually submitted it, I must say. I wrote the script. They're gonna follow it. Um, I'll get my Ferrari out of the deal and my trust fund set up and screw everything else.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. Before we end and before we can tell everybody where to go get the One Night Forever trilogy, I always end with the same question
Okay.
to my guests. I think you'd agree
Okay.
with me. Life is like a book. You've got a first page, you have a last page. None of us know how many pages are in the middle of that book, which is a good thing. But Amy, as a writer who has knocked out a trilogy and is going to knock out 4 books here in the coming years or year, who knows? You get to write your last page of your life's book. What do you want that last page to say?
I think I would just like to have, I'd just like it to say she had a happy life, just content and happy. Um, I'm going to use something for an example.
Hmm.
When was it? What was it? What was it? What was it? Well, mother-in-law, she said to my husband, "What does anyone want for Christmas?" This is like not last year before, and this sort of sums up how I feel about just big moments in life and things. Because all I fancy is a nice pair of slippers and a bottle of wine. That's all I need. Just a pair of slippers, which I've got on right now. Pair of slippers and a bottle of wine. That's all I want. And if that's how I end my last day on earth, in a pair of nice comfy slippers with a Chardonnay or a rosé, job done.
Well done.
And I think, I think I'm going to end a book on that one day with the happy couple at the end, just in their slippers with a bottle of Chardonnay. Happy days.
I think if they got the slippers and Chardonnay, they probably had a good run. So yeah,
That's it. Bottle of wine and my slippers. Thank you very much.
love it. So where can the audience go to? Well, of course, you're also. Guess I ask you this: where do they go? But do you see a difference between? You obviously sell books in the United States as well, so you use Amazon for
Yeah.
U.S. and UK and all the other stuff.
Yeah, so it is available worldwide.
Okay,
Um, I think going to bookstoread.com ACB for dash go onto my website, it's easier. If you go onto amycbeckinsale.com,
okay,
Amy C. Beckinsale under Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the links are on there. The first book is free. One Night Forever, the first one is free. You literally can go and grab it.
nice.
Kindle, Apple, Barnes and Noble, Nook, everything. And then obviously if you like it, then you can go and grab the other ones all on Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, it's all there. Help yourself, bash it out, enjoy it if you do. And then if you're happy to leave a review, then yay.
That
Because
would be great.
we love for the reviews that keeps us going. We see people reading the books and it gives us like encouragement, the fact that we are actually hopefully making somebody's day a little bit brighter and just escaping into that realistic world. Realistic, that's not right, is it? Make believe world and just
Mhm.
enjoying what someone has pulled out of their brain to write about. So yeah, go and find them. amycbeckinsale.com. You'll see my weird face doing that on the page. Yeah, and find us on Instagram and everything. I'm mainly there. I do TikTok as well, but I'm mainly all over Instagram as well. I have 2 pages on Instagram. As you know, I have the author one. I have the one where it's just weird shit in my life. Um,
So
I actually
follow both of them, people.
I think I actually have named the non-author one or the weird shit that happens in my life. There's the one that all the author shit's posted on. So yeah, come and find me, say hi. If you want to reach out, then that'd be really cool as well. I'm really into meeting new people as this is the first time me and Erica are speaking, and I think we've had an absolute blast and hope to do it again one day.
One of these days we'll meet up for a meal somewhere. Maybe we'll do it in Cardiff. Maybe I'll just have to come to
Yeah,
Cardiff and we can meet in Cardiff.
come
And
over the bridge.
I'll see if I'll see if Prince William wants to join us. Him and Kate. Maybe we can just pull the Royals in and we can get a little upgrade on the
That,
restaurant. So
that'd be good. Yeah, go and have dinner in the Savoy.
absolutely. Thanks for coming on,
Yeah.
Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me as well.
All right.